Hello, everyone. My name is Tim Seldin. I'm the president of the Montessori Foundation, chair of the International Montessori Council, and this is one of our periodic Montessori town halls. Cathy Leitch, executive director of our membership affiliated organization, International Montessori Council, is, I believe, going to facilitate today's conversation. Am I right, Cathy?
That's right.
All right. Take it away, Cathy.
Thank you, Tim. Thanks, everyone. Welcome. I'm looking around and I think this is the smallest meeting I think I've been on in 3 weeks. So I feel like I just invited you all into my home. So hi, nice to see everybody. This is really nice. It's so different because I can see everyone on one screen instead of 16. So I think, we didn't promote this meeting a lot, and sort of by design, because we've had a lot of meetings going on. And so I really just wanted to have this to check in with everyone. And so this gives us a different opportunity to have a conversation than we might have had with a larger group. My goal for this meeting is to check in, see where everyone is after, 2 weeks of isolation and so physical distancing and all of these things we've been through, online learning. There's just been so much going on. And when I look out, I see many of you who have been volunteers with us and serving in one capacity or another to support each other and support the educators in the schools. So first, I just want to say thank you to all of you who have been really doing so much to support our fellow Montessorians around the world. Additionally, I'd just like to start the conversation by doing just a brief check-in. Where are we and where are you? I'd be happy to update everybody on some of the task force work that's been happening and kind of where we're going next with that, so everybody's aware of that. But I'd love to hear from each of you and what's happening and how we can best serve you. If you have any questions or comments or thoughts about what's been going on for the past 2 weeks. It's just been an amazing transformation of our lives. Any thoughts? Tanya, I know you just had a major transformation, right? You're in a new location from when we saw you last.
No, I'm not. I'm in the same Zoom room I'm always in.
This is true. We're always in a Zoom room, aren't we?
I'm doing really well. I'm getting text messages from an email I wrote to well, first of all, let me introduce myself. There's a couple people here who I do not know. Okay. And so I'm Tanya Ryskind, and I'm currently the associate head of Newgate School, which is the lab school of the Montessori Foundation. And I'm working very closely. I have the great fortune of working very closely with Tim, John, Cathy, Christine, and Andrew. So I never feel like I'm doing this in isolation since I started a year ago. But clearly the lab school is a place that has an added dimension, whether it actually has it or not. The faculty think that they have to do better and more. And this is a certain time where they're really feeling a little bit of that pressure of how do we go online? How do we work with others? So it's been very interesting and humbling for all of us as we manage our schools and ourselves in a time of dramatic change. I think between 9 and 9:20 this morning, all the information Tim told me was no longer true.
It's a changing landscape, isn't it? Yeah. Thanks, Tanya. I think that Tanya, definitely is in the well, I hesitate to call it whitewater, but I'll call it whitewater. The whitewater that all of you who are running schools are doing, the day-to-day of trying to keep everybody supported and students engaged in learning and families feeling clear about what the next steps are and how things are moving forward. So, as Tim often says, the lab school keeps us real, and that's one of the reasons that we do that. And Tanya definitely is the boots on the ground person for us.
Well, Cathy, would it be all right if I shared something that just happened within the hour?
Sure.
At the lab school, which is, you know, in all of this, we're trying to create connection, and we're trying to make sure that everyone is doing self-care, while at the same time, we're all thinking about the future. And we had a major fundraising event that happens in May, cancel. We can't do it because it's a gathering of human beings in a space. And the person who is responsible for that on my leadership team just texted me and said, I have figured out a way to do an online event that I think will work as well as the other event. Can I proceed? And I'm like, all over it, go for it, right? We have nothing to lose at this point this year.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the kind of energy that I'm seeing coming from Newgate as well as other schools. So I'd love to hear, especially it's so nice to see Leane. I only get to see you in conferences.
Yeah.
I could go next if you'd like, Cathy. Thank you, Tanya, for sharing. For those that don't know me, I'm Andrew Kutt. I'm the founder of Oneness Family Montessori School in Chevy Chase, Maryland and Kensington, Maryland, just outside of Washington, D.C. We serve children 2 years old through 12th grade from 60 different countries. And what I would say is that what I'm feeling about these first 2 weeks is how much, how essential just holding each other is, whether you're holding yourself or holding your administrators or teachers or parents or students. And that seems, if you boil down the work, at least for me, that's what it's come down to right now. And also holding each other as colleagues. We just, one of our biggest donor, the wife just lost her aunt in Iran to the virus. And one of our alumni students who is in her 20s, who lives in DC, just tested positive for the virus yesterday. So really now we're in a phase where it's getting closer and closer to home. And so aside from the emotions of that, the thing that I've been realizing is to focus on flexibility and adaptability and innovation. So for example, we had a session with the high school students yesterday and again today. And today went even deeper than yesterday. They were talking yesterday about how it's going personally and in their lives and their families and all of that. And also they shared what they thought of our leadership in our country and our world right now, which was enlightening to say the least. And then they also today got much more in depth on how the distance learning process is going for them and what is not working. So based upon that, we are going to, dramatically change the way we're delivering, not so much the way we're delivering the curriculum, but the way we think about it and the timing and frequency and spacing and allowing for some of their ideas to be, to happen. So I think that we're all being forced to be innovators right now and forced to listen and forced to innovate and to be flexible and to adapt. And so I think holding each other and being innovative are the two things that are, my biggest learnings out of these first 2 weeks of this crisis.
Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, the community and the engagement is, such an important part, I think, of what we're hearing that everywhere. And I've been to several community meetings with different schools and meeting with their parents. And of course, your wonderful Friday morning that you do. I think you do that every Friday in the school year, right? I mean, every time I've been at your school, I've attended. So
yes, every Friday at 9 o'clock, and you all are more than welcome to join. That's what Cathy's referring to is our community meeting, which is our all-school meeting, and we've transferred it to Zoom. So it includes songs, it includes an opening kind of meditation, and sometimes a theme and celebrating birthdays and things like that. So everyone's more than welcome.
Beautiful, great. If you're looking for ideas, those are some fun ideas. Anyone else like to go? Jonathan?
Yeah, as heart-wrenching as it is to watch the world go through this and hear all these, horrible stories, the silver lining for me is I'm getting to work with people that I never get to, don't get to work enough with, like, Tim and Tanya and Christine and Andrew and Margot and Lorna and all these people that, I'm in the same organization with as a Montessori consultant for the foundation. But now under these bizarre conditions, I get to see you guys every day, which is kind of a kick. I'm really loving it, as difficult as it is. So that's the silver lining for me.
Well, yeah, we get to see each other virtually, but at least we get to see each other, right?
Yeah.
We're having a little withdrawal because, we're all so close, but we can't really see each other. So I mean, be together.
I really wonder what the children are going to be like when they get to see people in person again.
Good question.
I just, yeah.
It's going to be interesting.
Hey, John, could you tell us a little bit more about some of the work you're doing? I think maybe not everyone knows all the things you're involved in. I think that would be nice.
Well, I'm working with Christine and Viju on the self-care task force. What is it? It's Common Connected, Christine, is that right? That's the name of it? Yeah, I think you're muted, Christine.
Yes.
So I'm really enjoying working on the self-care because it reminds me to actually occasionally to take a breath and take care of myself, walk my talk. I'm also really having fun working with Lorna and Christine and Margot on the parent and family support task force to just support families. And then I'm sort of coordinating the contingency planning group, which is just helping school leaders think out into the future in a very unknown future and think holistically so they can be quickly adaptable. And then Andrew and I are kicking around some things. We're not quite sure what we're going to do with them yet, just some other ideas for community events, maybe some of the IMC Friday evening silliness done online. We're not quite sure, Montessori or something like that. I don't know.
I love that idea. Love it.
Thanks,
Thanks, John, for filling us in on a couple of those. Tim, you want to go ahead because you're on a couple of the task force. Well, you don't have to talk about every single task force, but the ones that you're most involved in.
Well, I'm involved in the financial planning support group. I think there are about 18 of us now that are running groups of 10 or more schools over a period of, it's going to be 3 weeks, 2 sessions a week. I know that I'm holding my meetings on Tuesday and Fridays, and they're basically very, very highly confidential, structured times for people to share with each other and develop their plans for what are they going to do. And it will certainly not be as much as everyone needs, but it'll be a lot more than most people have available otherwise. So that's one of the things we're doing. Val Weiss and I are getting ready to, as I think I said, as the meeting was going, we're getting ready to run I believe, 5-week course on how to do emergency fundraising from start to inaction. So it'll be all about putting together your plan and, going really fast to raise the money that'll be part of what you need to keep your organization alive. And we're also doing these things that John talked about, the gatherings for parents. We're doing that 3 days a week. We're having them, and then these various town meetings and so forth. Plus, I'm getting lots and lots of calls and requests for advice on lots of issues. I think we're all kind of doing everything, and really, it's the people who are much more talented than me, people like Christine Lowry and John Wolff, and you especially, Cathy, who are coordinating the volunteers and keeping things on track. And thank God I got Tanya to actually manage the lab school. That's like having a 1-month-old, constantly demanding, as you all know, if you have a school.
Not Tanya, the school. I just want to be clear.
Sorry.
I think
Yeah.
Tanya,
School
you're
is like
now,
having a 1-month-old.
It's called a dangling participle.
Exactly.
Tanya, you now can have a tantrum and bite Tim. It's okay.
Oh my goodness.
There we go.
Yeah, thanks, Tim.
Thank you for the stuff that you've been sharing. It's been wonderful what you and John and others are doing. Christine, people need the emotional support as much as anything else.
Yeah. In fact, Baiju, do you mind going next and telling a little bit about yourself? And I know you've been working with us. And
yeah, so yeah, I've been working with you guys, and I've also run a small school, just 2 classrooms, 3 to 6, and June is supposed to be my last date, so we'll see, June 1. We'll see if now school is not in our state. There is going to be no school till June 1. So it's going to be interesting. Transition will be even more interesting now. So we'll see. It's
has your school found a new head of school?
Yes, the teacher that started the school with me, they've hired her to take on. And so she's going to go for administrators training and all of that. So, but yeah, she's the right person. It's just the question of she right now doesn't have any bandwidth for any of it. So it's don't know what June 1st will actually look like. Might be easier actually. Who knows?
Well, yeah, who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah.
Is your school closed until June 1st?
The building is closed. No, we're doing that.
I mean, yes.
Yes. So we're in the steep learning curve of that, how to get content out to children, learning how to play with Zoom and doing breakout rooms with different age groups and things like that everybody else is figuring out at the same time. The good news is I don't feel alone doing it.
Right.
No,
Thanks to technology, you don't feel alone.
Right.
But your state has asked schools to not be physically in connection with each other until June 1st?
Until the school year is out, whatever your
Oh,
school year is.
wow.
Yes, that was from the governor.
Many states have.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't you in Indiana?
I am. This came down yesterday.
Oh, okay. All right. That makes sense. Okay.
So let me speak a little bit to this learning curve that we all have on how to deliver curriculum. I don't know. I even sort of trip over my own words on this because I really want to make clear that that's not our main goal, is to deliver curriculum.
No.
Right?
No,
Main goal is to make sure that children are given opportunities for engagement and growth and curiosity and development without hindrance and obstruction from the current pandemic.
Yes, that's true. It's just the way that you have to word it sometimes for parents, for them to feel this.
I'm 100% in on that, Baiju. I'm just saying that this is, even when we're working with parents, they're like, why are you making me the teacher? I don't want to be a teacher. I never wanted to be a teacher. So or we get, will my child be behind?
Oh, yeah, I just addressed that at our board meeting today. I said, children are not going to be behind. You have to understand, children this age learn whether you want them to or not. That's just going to happen.
But behind what at this point? Everybody's in the same boat.
Well, even if they were the only school, at the end of the day, children learn in every environment that they're in. You can't stop it if you try to.
Right.
So I don't know what more children are just naturally absorbers of their environment. We know this.
Yeah.
Just put good things in front of them. Good diet.
But it's really important that our teachers stay engaged with these children and stay
Absolutely.
in the community, and they're the anchor, the routine,
Absolutely.
the security for them, if nothing else, the certainty in their uncertain lives.
Yep.
But I'd like to update you all on the curriculum task force. Some of my colleagues have talked about some of the other task forces. Curriculum task force led by Kitty Bravo, who has been, absolutely brilliant in how she has gathered people and done this by level and first of all taught people how to even use Zoom and Google Classrooms and all of these platforms, but has really put out some really I think important alternatives for different age levels, because there's so much out there that is just kind of throwing stuff at the wall and see what sticks, or worksheet based or things like that. And so she and her group, all of our task forces at this point are sort of moving into phase 2 planning. What comes next? So we all kind of knew we were in it for 2 weeks, and then now we're like, oh my goodness, okay, it really is, we're in it for a little bit longer than that. And so I'm meeting with all the task force leaders to come up with what's phase 2. How do we move to the next level in this? And Kitty and I have met a couple of times about this, and we have a meeting with the whole group of volunteers who are contributing in this area to help the teachers and school leaders and parents start looking at what's next for these children. What's sustainable if we're going to do this for the next 6 to 8 weeks in some cases. And so, how do we do that, and how do we help everybody relax a little bit and breathe into this new reality so that it's not, in the beginning it was this immense sense of urgency, and some schools might have overdone it a little bit, and other schools sort of underdid it, thinking, oh, this will be over soon, no big deal. So we really have to, help start looking at these next steps in the next phase. So that's going to be happening, and we'll have some new things to share next week. We're going to, have everybody working on that piece on how to stay calm and carry on. The finance that Tim was talking about, we've moved into phase 2 on that, and we have these small groups, 10 schools at a time, that we're helping to coach through a process to develop a financial plan and assess where they are. I know, John, you're meeting with your contingency group this weekend to start looking at that phase 2 for them as well, right?
Yep. Yes.
Yep. And then we have the self-care group that's working on that. Parent support has regular meetings now scheduled. So, all the task forces are sort of finding a new rhythm, shall we say, to, how this is going to be sustainable. Sustainable for all of you and your schools and your communities, and also sustainable, to tell you the truth, the Montessori Foundation and the IMC. How do we keep up this pace? Because we're a very, very small staff of people and volunteers. And so, how do we find a rhythm and a pace that's workable so that we're not over-promising our things as well. So that's just a little bit of an update. If you want to be involved, I know many of you already are, but if you'd like to be involved in any of those groups, just let me know. We also have a technology group. I failed to mention that. That's kind of uploading things, harvesting from all different places, curating content, and loading it onto that resource site. So it's a slow process. Everybody's, doing this in their volunteer time and making a great effort. So just a brief update on that. And I'd like to go back to, introductions and sharing a little bit about where you are and what's going on for you. And at the same time, I also see Andrew's putting some things in the chat. Thanks, Andrew. It's a great place. If you're not sure how to click on chat, on the bottom of your screen, you'll see a chat button. And if you click on that, it'll open up and you can put messages in there. You can copy, you can save it. If you look at your 3 buttons in the bottom, it'll say save chat. You can save that. It'll pop up on your desktop when the meeting's over. So Liane, can I go to you next? Tell us a little bit about what's up with you and what's going on in Cary.
Sure. We have been closed now 3 weeks. I have to say, without too much direction from me, my teachers were up and running. They knew the importance of connection and kind of got on it right away with, we switched to Blooms this year, which has been a lifesaver through this.
Yeah.
Because there's one place for everything to go. And so they have been doing different things in each classroom. Some have meetings more often than others, but they felt out their parents and asked how much they wanted, because the parents are working, at the same time. And they don't want their child on the screen all the time either. So, we've recorded a lot of stories. We've downloaded a lot of music. We've had birthday celebrations. And it seems to be working great. We had, I've been doing Thursday night parent meetings. The first one I had like 20 people at. Last night there were 4 of us on it. a teacher myself, and then 2 parents. And, you know, their biggest concern was what's going to happen when we come back. And I said, you know, we're going to come back when we can come back and it's safe. And I said, and we're going to be as open to everything as possible, because we don't know what it's going to be like coming out of to this. I mean, when one child comes back after a traumatic incident, there's trauma. When 85 children walk into the building,
Right.
it's going to be a lot. And I said, you know, I think we'll have a lot about time, outside time, so that they can just be with their friends and run around and play. And we'll slowly get back into it. And she said, well, we get updates throughout the day on how kids are doing. Because her child's very quiet and had just started really talking in the classroom. He's a toddler. And so she's afraid it's going to all revert back. And I was like, yes, we will make every effort to, you know, do periodic check-ins during the day. But, you know, it's like, we've got to start at some point coming up with those plans on how we get back. But my staff is doing great. My parents have been extremely supportive. We gave them 3 options of either paying full tuition, half tuition, or withdrawing without a penalty. And I only had a few that withdrew. The majority were like, well, I want the teachers to be paid, so I'm paying full. And they've been great. And they're like, do we need to do more beyond that? So I'm feeling great about our community as a whole.
That's wonderful news, that, you know, that you're getting that kind of support for sure. And we want to make sure that that continues now through the long haul, right?
Yeah.
And you're certainly right to start thinking about, you know, the what ifs and thens. And I know John's group is doing a lot of that. And I'm sure that the teacher group and the parent group will also be participating in some of that, and self-care for that matter, because self-care for, you know, is for children as well. How will we help them deal with the trauma as they process all of this? So those are important. Christine, can you go next?
Yeah, thank you. Leanne, I'm so glad that you brought that up. One of my, well, I'm generally doing great, and I am so grateful to be working with all of you and doing the things that I'm doing for the foundation. That's self-care for me. So I really appreciate being able to do that. But the thing that worries me, the thing that I wake up in the middle of the night about, is what is happening to our children. And wearing my special ed hats, the concern about the trauma that they are experiencing, that's ongoing, and it's long-term now trauma, I think is going to be something that we really, as a Montessori community, and I know that the broader educational community, is really going to have to attend to and really deeply think about how are we going to help these children, you know, and maybe even begin to look at how can we do a little bit of that kind of specific work about that over the next several months while, you know, they're having some kind of relationship with their peers and their teacher, most of them. Even if it's too much stuff or too little stuff, at least they're seeing their teacher and their friends on a regular basis. And you know, that's going to be a lifesaver. But that's something that I really want to begin to focus on in my own personal work is, you know, again, from a special education perspective, how are we going to support these children and their parents in supporting them?
Yeah, and we know that there's going to be grief involved in that as well. Cathy Lopez-Cooling, hello, welcome. Would you like to share some things and introduce yourself?
There, okay. I'm Cathy Lopez-Cooling. I'm from Wilmington, Delaware. So it's been very refreshing to hear everybody across the nation that all of you at the Montessori Foundation have brought together to hear where people are at in this journey. So we have 5 classrooms, toddler up through kindergarten. Our state finally closed down even childcare centers because we were part of that loop of, are we a school or are we a childcare center? So we battled with being open, and the liability of that, the moral piece of that, about how you can ask teachers to come to work that are scared and don't want to be there, and how you can pretend like this is not really happening for parents to go to work and business as usual. And that's not what this is about at all. So we've been closed now for 3 weeks. As of Monday, our governor finally put into place, he had closed schools but kept childcare open. And since I offer childcare, we were pushing to be open. And I'm a not-for-profit run by a board, and it's actually 4 past parents, 1 current parent, and myself that are on the board. And I've been there for 30 years. They've decided that if we couldn't prove that it was safe, we were not going to take the risk and open the school. So we said, okay, we're going to pay our teachers for these next 2 weeks, and hopefully something's going to change. You know, there's going to be a miracle or an answer, and there wasn't. So, and then people want to know, well, what are you going to do? So we actually we gave them a choice that they could donate their tuition, or that we would reduce the tuition for people that had monthly payments, and the people that already have paid us for the whole year. But we wanted to keep providing the online kind of learning. So we do the Zoom meetings, we do everything everybody's been talking about. The teachers have been great. It's been quite an experience for all of us to step up to the plate with technology. And now the teachers just keep working on making it better and stronger. So we have parents that have concerns because they're going to leave us at the end of the year to go to 1st grade, and how ready will their children be? But like Cathy said, who will be ready, right? Because they're all in the same boat. We did give a huge tuition reduction because we feel like this is not what they signed up for. We can't deliver what we said we were going to do. I'm fortunate that as of today, we have a hefty amount of money that was there in case we needed it. And and we were going to add on to the building, etc. We won't be doing that now, but that's okay. Instead, we have it there for, rainy day tragedy fund. And now this is, the pandemic falls in that category. So that's kind of where we're at. And and it changes by the hour, even within our state and the surrounding states. So Pennsylvania, Maryland, and New Jersey have made some pretty bold statements from the very beginning, of which our governor is super conservative, and he is afraid to shut down Delaware. But with what's happening, we now are closed until May 15th, or until the state of emergency is deemed over. So we don't think that May 15th will be the magic date. And so we're ready for next steps. Like, how do we prepare if we can't open until the middle of June? What about if we can't open until next September? What about if we can't open until next January? So those are the things that we're working with, and hoping that Montessori Foundation and these little groups will help us prepare for that.
Well, Cathy, that's a really good point. And one of the things I'm taking notes on is what everyone is sharing about, what you're looking for, what your questions are, things like that. And we'll spend a little bit of time after we hear from Tammy on that. But I do think it's part of what Jonathan and the contingency group are really helping people to start framing. And that framing will be coming, and certainly you'll be invited to benefit and participate in that. Are you I'm sure you're on our email list, right? You're getting our updates and things, or go to Montessori.org and the news and announcements.
Yep.
Generally, we'll have our updates there and things that you can count on participating in. So,
Thank you.
yeah, yeah. Okay, Tammy, last but not least, thanks for your patience. I know you've been on so many of our meetings and participating, so thanks for being here.
Well, I want to say thank you guys very much. I'm up in Maryland, and Andrew, I've been wanting to come to your school for a while, so when we all get back to normal, I'd love to come see your school. You know, I appreciate what you guys have given. We are a school of about 100, but I'm really the administration. It's just me, so you know, it gets lonely up top. And your all's help and talk through that has definitely been helpful. I'm along the lines with Liane, and that our parent group has been extremely supportive. We had a very trusting, happy group when we went into this, and I think that makes the difference. You know, most of them paid full tuition. When we offered discounts, some of them looked to me like, what? No, we're not taking a discount. Put it towards the school, put it towards the staff. We only had one leave. You know, along the lines with Cathy, we closed 3 weeks ago and debated about the child care piece, because we serve 6 weeks through 6th grade. And our parents that are in infants and toddlers come to us for child care. As much as I know we're a Montessori school and we provide Montessori, they come to us for child care. And so I really struggled with that, because that's a service we can no longer provide. The child care piece, my infant toddler parents were the most that grumbled, but none of them left. We did give 25% discount to all of the infant toddlers, and they all were really happy with that, and we just left it at that. So we're doing okay. I think this 24-hour period, my biggest challenge is supporting the teachers. They all jumped in this at a sprint 3 weeks ago and did a wonderful job for 2 weeks. We took this week as spring break just for everybody to regroup, gather themselves back together. It was supposed to be next week. And so we're gonna, you know, launch here on Monday for what could be much more long-term than that. And I think the biggest thing is we have some parents who are like, you know, I don't need anything. I'm barely keeping my head above water. You know, I've got 3 kids. I can't share the computer. I'm putting them in front of the TV and we're making it. We're okay. And then we've got the parents who are like, give me a structure routine with 3 Zooms a day and this and that. So we're trying to find a median. I really feel like Zoom is not Montessori, so we're using it as a way to connect and see faces, but not really instruct. And I know that that's not what everybody else is doing, but we're giving ideas and suggestions with kind of 2 blocks during the day that we're encouraging them of 45-minute periods to just do at-home activities with their kids, but we're not doing a whole lot of online instruction, and who knows, that could change in 2 weeks. But we're just really trying to stay connected daily, teachers reaching out to kids and families daily. And one family mom might just need to vent to the teacher about how bad it is every day. And the next mom might want 15 Montessori activities. So we are really individualizing it with more of the parent teacher conference of 15 minutes kind of a day, several times a week, as opposed to online instruction. But, you know, I got an email this morning from a parent who got online and looked at guidepost schools who I'm not real familiar with, but sees the distance learning program they're launching. And he's like, we really want something like this, you know? So parents are shopping around, seeing what other schools are doing out there right now during this time. So we're just trying to kind of stay in the middle grounds and service both ends of the extreme with our parents.
Yeah. That was a great summary of what I think everyone is experiencing for sure, Tim. You are definitely not alone in that. We are hearing that everywhere. Yeah. Jonathan, do you want to speak a little bit to this, because you are hearing it as well in these parent groups?
I think Tammy said it beautifully. You know, it's so some people, both teachers or school leaders or parents, they're just pushing curriculum and pushing curriculum. We got to keep the learning going. And what they're missing is like, we're in crisis. Children need emotional support. They need to take care of themselves. They need to see their parents taking care of themselves, their teachers taking care of themselves, and connecting with one another. I mean, it's interesting that in a Montessori classroom under normal conditions, we teach practical life first, care of self and care of community, and we teach grace and courtesy, community, you know, and then we move to curriculum, right? In the early childhood level, even at the elementary level, it's all about, you know, take responsibility, build community, work with your friends, work with your teachers, and then we'll start to learn stuff academically. But sometimes in this kind of hysterical times, people forget people have to be healthy, they have to be connected to feel the meaning. And then, yes, we do need to look at learning, but learning is almost third in the landing pattern. So I think you're really in sync. Tanya?
Yeah.
Oh, I had a flip side to what Tammy so eloquently summarized, certainly going on in my school as well. But the flip side is anyone seeing faculty members who generally don't have either a desire or an interest in being connected to parents? I mean, the parents for them is the last place they want to go. They're in it for the children. Start to have more emotional stress because they're connecting with parents now. And what are you, if you are seeing it, is there anything specific that you've tried to do for them that is helping them?
Interesting question.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm going to make a note about that, Tanya, because I do think it's something that we want to ask about.
You know, I have a teacher who's from Korea, and her accent's very strong, and her articulation is not the strongest. And she is struggling with the video and the live because now she's in front of parents, and she's afraid it's going to look poorly. She's a primary early childhood teacher who's teaching language, although I observed her in the classroom, and she is wonderful when she's with that kid on the floor. It's great, but now in front of this computer, in front of this group, she is really shying away from it. And so we're just, you know, staying away from certain things, only doing things that she's comfortable with. Her assistant is really stepping in and doing a lot online, but we're only doing 2 live meetings a week, and then they're doing videos where then they will post each morning circle time. She felt much more comfortable doing video because she could do it 1, 2, 3, 4 times till she felt comfortable with it. But it was really the live that was really hard. So we've just limited that with her class.
So Andrew wanted to add. Go ahead, Andrew.
I just want an observation that just really hit me as I was listening. But you know, in the classroom and in our schools, such an important focus of Montessori is on differentiation in terms of what the students need and, you know, to some degree what our families need. And now that differentiation is something that's really hard to manage. First of all, how do you manage it through a single platform? And secondly, do we even have the bandwidth to do that, given everything else going on and the emotional toll it's all taking on us? So I just throw that out there as a observation of a need that we may or may not be able to meet, but I hear us all trying to meet it in different ways, whether we're intentional about it or we're just trying to figure it out, you know.
But what Tammy just said sounds to me like differentiating for that teacher. And that, you know, because everybody is on this learning curve and everybody is going to traverse that curve at a different pace, like the children in our classrooms, and that you're being so sensitive to her needs, Tammy, is, you know, I mean, that's really what differentiation is all about, right, Andrew? It's observing the need of the individual and making the adjustments that you need to make to help that person, and everybody will kind of be in their own place on the curve.
Yeah, and I guess part of what I'm saying too is that that's a beautiful example of what we're all trying to do. And right now, the first step, and maybe just listening to people, because we may not have any earthly idea how to meet everyone's needs right now, but to listen deeply and make people feel heard, and then to take those concerns and ideas and put them into the hopper, so to speak, and figure out how we do that. But I think that that's a real challenge, and maybe kind of being more upfront about it, more explicit about that being a challenge might actually help us to say to our parents, we're doing our utmost to try to make this to work, and at the same time it may not be possible to differentiate in the way that we're used to, or with our teachers who are striving to differentiate and support every individual student, but maybe feeling the stress of not being able to do that either.
Yeah, good point. Liane wanted to say something.
Yeah, I heard, as I always say, I heard on NPR today that someone stated that I'm tired of saying I'm working from home during the crisis, that it needs to be, there's a crisis and I'm trying to keep up with work. And I think that's kind of what we're all doing. I mean, we're doing it as far as the work part goes, but the kids are in crisis. And that has to come first. And the parents may not understand that at this point, because a lot of them are probably very driven as employees, and they stay on task and you just keep going. And so I think, we have a responsibility for a little education, gently, that right now our goal is to connect with the children and to keep them seeing their friends, during a Zoom chat. But our top goal is not that they learn addition or that they're spelling words, that we have a mental health crisis, and that needs to be our first goal. Fortunately, I haven't had any parents complaining. I have some that are saying they're on fire and they want more because they finally hit that stride at 5 that we've been waiting for. And so we're giving that child a lot and letting them use the materials and that sort of thing. We've waited a long time to see this, and we don't want it to be lost.
I want to miss that.
But we just need to remember, these children are going through a crisis, whether they're aware of it or not. And that should be our goal.
Good point.
I just want to respond to something, back to Tanya's question for a minute. For me, the possible silver lining in the issue that Tanya raised, that we all know teachers who come out of teacher training and stay out of teacher training and think it's all about the children. I'm not really that interested in working with adults. And we know that part of really being a successful Montessori teacher is not only following the child, but following the family and understanding the family. And maybe this is the beginning of a new paradigm of as Tim would say, family-friendly schools, where teachers understand that part of their responsibility is not only to understand the child, but to understand and bond with the parents. And this situation is forcing teachers to do that because of the crisis. Maybe we will create a whole culture where teachers understand the family is part of the prepared environment that you're teaching. That may be the blessing of all of this down the road.
Okay, I have several thoughts. The first is...
Tim, hold on. I think Viju's raised her hand several times.
Yep.
Have you?
I didn't see.
That's okay.
I just want to tag on to what Andrew said earlier, and the amount of differentiation. Yes, we're all differentiating. We're differentiating to meet the needs of the children and the family, but now we're also differentiating platforms. Do they have enough devices at home? What times work for them? We had all those things structured for us. The amount and the types of differentiation that all of us are trying to do has just exponentiated right now. It's not just the child and the family, because each family has either lost job, maybe they're working 2 jobs. I just talked to somebody who's working in the banking industry and they're slammed. There is no breathing for them right now. So, there's so much variation within that construct of differentiation that is adding to the stress. And I think you said it rightly. I think we need to just take that in for a moment, let that sit, to really let it sit. Like, I want us to all understand how much information we're taking in right now also. So.
Thanks.
All true.
Good point.
One of my sayings is clarity is the key to success. And another is money follows excellence. And I think that for me, the conversation didn't start with Tanya, but one step further back, which was Tammy mentioning guideposts, setting up online learning, parents learning about it and saying, I want that. We're all part of schools of choice. Those kinds of schools include Christian schools, Catholic schools, military academies, all kinds of schools that address all kinds of different parent philosophies and goals. But what we can do is come out of this more clear about who we are and what kind of parent is going to love us for what we are, as opposed to looking for the greener grass on the other side of the fence. The same is true with teachers. Everything that everyone has said is so true. All the stress these kids are going through, their parents are going through, the bankers who are tearing their hair out trying to keep up with the amount of work versus the family that doesn't know how to make ends meet. And we're all in crisis. This is all absolutely true. And it's true that we've got teachers who came out of training with all kinds of different ideas about how they relate to parents or whether they want to relate to parents, no less how they feel about live video conversation or recorded or any of it. So one of the things that I would suggest to us is, as we go through this crisis, that we keep thinking, who are we as an individual school? What do we want when we're on the other side? Because we know that we've got the people we've got right now. We've got to hold them to our heart. We've got to walk together through this. We've got to support people in every way we can. And some will allow us to help them and some will not. Some will meet the needs and expectations of the challenge. Some will not. And our schools individually will prosper or struggle or fail based on how well we are at achieving the closest that we can to our ideal. But on the other side, what we can look at is, hopefully we'll never face a crisis quite like this one again. But it really does come down to the unique culture of the school that each one of us is part of, and the kind of parents that we're able to attract, and the kinds of services and programs we're able to put together for them. And it's an imperfect world. We're going to get people from Korea who, for example, are very shy, and we can try to figure out how to use them best. But we can also look at this greater issue that was sort of tossed around, and I think is really the core of our character. And the most important thing here is Montessori schools are not about delivering curriculum. As Mario Montessori said back in 1973, academic achievement in young children is an accidental and happy byproduct of a normalized Montessori classroom. This whole idea of what's our core goal, whether the child is an infant, a toddler, early childhood, elementary, secondary, what are we doing? Because we know that we're not good at being Snate Academy. We're not that. So the question is, who are we? And there'll be a lot of differentiation, not only among the children and among the teachers, but among the schools that we as leaders are trying to guide. And ultimately, while we can't change anybody, we can be clear in our own minds about who we are, what we stand for, and we can preach the preach, sing the song, and see who wants to gather around there with us. Because it's really the leaders of schools who are the conductors of the orchestra. And I really think clarity is the key to success. And that includes this issue of, what do we really expect from ourselves in terms of what we do with parents, and what kind of relationship do we expect parents to have with us? other than pay bills.
Tim, what's interesting though is that we are now being put under a microscope by the world because other people outside the Montessori community are looking at us. Kitty just sent an email about we hit it big. We've got we're showcased in EdChoice magazine, a digital learning magazine, on how Montessori preschools are responding to COVID-19 by going online and teaching curriculum.
Well, I love it. Yeah, I know the article that Andrew just posted in there, and I think it was you, Andrew, and it's the oxymoron of like jumbo shrimp. Whoever thought Montessori, which is hands-on and in person and up close, could go online? It's the same challenge we had
as quickly as we did. We've done it faster than any other learning group in the world, which is like.
But I think that's because Montessori is all about the connection.
Right.
Montessori, the first thing I heard my teachers, concerns was how their kids are being and doing and surviving and being supported in their home of their parents. So I think Montessori's connection is what made us all jump into that sprint 3 weeks ago to really make something happen. And it just happened to be online because it's the only way we could do it.
Mm-hmm. So Tammy, you brought up right now you took a break. So you sprinted and then you were able to take a break and regroup, and because that's one of my biggest concerns is I know we're going to be going for the next 4, maybe 6 weeks, and you can't, sprinting and marathon running are 2 total different training.
Yeah, I was concerned for our teachers' sake, and I'll be honest, I'm concerned at coming back for our teachers. If this goes till the end of the school year, then our teachers will have the summer to somewhat regroup if they don't work summer. But they're going to need a vacation when they finish this. But yeah, we hadn't had spring break yet. It was supposed to be next week, so we just decided to regroup. Doesn't mean the teachers have not been working, but they haven't had to give direct instruction, so they've been able to do it in the background, and we've met a little bit to decide how to do it, but I've made sure they all take a break and breather.
So we just have a few minutes left, and I really would love if anybody has anything. Like I said, I've been taking some notes and watching the chat. If there's anything in particular that you see additionally as a need, other than we've talked about with, helping support the teachers to move to a new level of sustainability. We've also talked about, what it's going to be like when the children come back. Mm-hmm. Any other thoughts for us as we move forward with our task forces and to continue to find ways to serve you and your schools?
Moving from sprinting to marathoning.
It's 4 o'clock.
That's what we call phase 2, for sure.
Yeah. Baju, do you want to share what you shared in self-care group just three days ago?
Yeah, I just said the same thing. I made the same analogy about sprinting versus marathon. And like you, we've been on spring break this week, and I told my teachers, you're not working, nothing. You're not doing anything except maybe coming in to feed the fish. That is the self-care. I'm not calling you in for a meeting. I'm not doing anything till Monday morning. And if the parents have to wait a day or two, they have to wait a day or two, because I know how hard it is to do new work. It's not how much work you're doing. Everything they're doing is new. And that takes so much more energy than doing the same old thing. You could work 14 hours doing the same old thing that you're used to doing, but everything that they've done for 2 weeks was brand new. And for those of my teachers that are not technology savvy, oh my goodness, it was a huge jump for them. So to just hold space, I said, nope, nothing this week. So next week we'll get it. And you know what? Parents are appreciative of it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Andrew?
Well, in that spirit, what Baju was just saying, I would be happy to read a poem to close the meeting today once it's that time. So
it is that time. Thank you.
It is that time.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this is a poem called Be Like the Leaf, which is from my newest volume of poems.
Favorite.
You like that one? Well, then I must be psychic more than I thought. I'm so glad. It's called Be Like the Leaf. Be like the leaf, waking without a plan, letting go, just spinning and turning in the delicate embrace of the wind, her sweet breath on your face, together transmuting vibrant light into laughter, giving voice to the song of minerals darkly aged in the soil beneath you, singing the earth, embracing the dance, green full and heaven spread under the summer sky, be like the leaf. Thank you for letting me do that, Cathy.
Thank you very much, Andrew. First time I heard that, I said, that's what I want to be. I want to be like a leaf and wake up without a plan. That's my dream. One of these days, we're going to wake up and not have all of this hanging over our heads, right? This too shall pass. And so appreciate you sharing that. If anybody wasn't able to make Andrew's last poetry reading, you might want to choose to notice when he schedules another one, because it's quite soothing and calming and reassuring. So thank you.
Thank you for that, Cathy. I'll be doing another one within the next 2 weeks for sure.
Terrific. Well, I just want to thank everyone for being here, for everything you're doing on behalf of the Montessori children all over the world. It's rewarding for me to keep hearing from people and to see that we are coming together as a community in a way that probably has never happened among Montessorians in this way for the common good. And Montessori did believe that education was really for the common good, and that with this philosophy and way of life that we can create a better world. And I think we have a unique opportunity right now.
Let me offer one more thought as we close. And I should have said this when I was talking before. Montessori, in being asked by reporters, how can imperfect people who didn't grow up Montessori do this? And she said they fake it. They learn to play a role. And that role serves the children that we work with until eventually that which you're projecting becomes sort of part of who you are. And that, I think, is one of the hardest things for people to really get, that they can move through the areas of discomfort, and with support from each other, we can help people to, in their own time, understand that, if they want to do this work, there are things we have to do that we wouldn't do naturally, because it doesn't come naturally, but we still have to do it.
Tim, I think there's a famous Christian saint who escapes me, having come from a Jewish background, who said, assume a virtue if you have it not.
And Tammy Wilson, I saw your request for Mario's quote. I'll have to dig it up. It's in one of my collections of quotes. I'll get it out there.
Can I ask one more question about the task force? I just haven't been involved with any of that. And can you tell me just a real little bit, or who should I reach out to about that?
Probably me. It depends. Well, let me think about that. Which task force are you interested in? Would you like me to tell you what they are?
Well, is it just something that you're a part of kind of creating with others? Is that what the task force is? Or what is the purpose behind them?
Well, there's a couple different, their purpose is to help Montessori schools immediately to respond to the need and the needs as assessed by groups like this, and listening to people and bigger groups and other ways. But yeah, the idea is to be responsive in the areas of helping schools with self-care, with, and that's for everyone, for children and teachers, school leaders, parents. It's also for helping to develop curriculum, and what we're moving into now is guidelines for pedagogical best practice, given what, our methods of delivery, our choices that we have left. Contingency planning, as Jonathan talked about.
Cathy, could I jump in? And I would just,
Please
I
do.
would just say, Tammy, if you feel inclined, please join one of the groups. For me, and I think I speak for many, it's a way to give of ourselves to the broader Montessori community, and it's so. But it's also an opportunity to have conversations like this and to connect to each other. And I don't see it as work. It's really it's a blessing every day to be able to connect to our colleagues far and wide. So
Okay, and there was one with parent support, is that right?
That is true, yes.
yes.
That's,
Okay.
that's headed up by Lorna.
Yeah.
Called the Parent and Family Support Task Force. This is just really focused on how we help parents through this time.
Okay, I'd be interested in that, Kathy.
I'm gonna put Lorna's email in here
Okay.
for you. She would be,
We'd love your participation, Tammy.
Thank you.
Great.
and you know, new ideas are welcome. So it's an interesting time as we move into the phase 2 to have some perspective on what's been happening and look at how we can, you know, look at with some new eyes. So I just thank everybody for being here today, and feel free to email me if you have any questions or would like to have some ideas about new ways we can serve. Just let us know. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Bye
Bye,
bye.
everyone.
Well, everyone.
Happy Friday.
Hang in there, Leanne. Same to you, Andrew, Kathy.
Love you all. Bye bye.
Is it
Bye.
Friday?
Everybody take time for yourself this
I
weekend.
was going to say, is it Friday cocktail hour yet?
Yeah.
I know
Indeed.
some of us gave up drinking for Lent. It was
Okay.
a really bad idea.
Love it.
Goodness. Well, thanks, you guys. Appreciate you being here today. And
Sure.
Thank you.
I'm kind of glad it was a small group. That was really nice. And it looks to me like I did not promote that one big time at all. But since it was on the calendar, I thought go ahead and do it. But it sort of, you know, gave me some thoughts about kind of where do we go from here. And I think we're moving away from these big town